For many, including me, the journey out here starts with a trip through the 5-minute tunnel. And whether I drive through that tunnel or walk the trails, I realize that the Marin Headlands for me is the quintessential national park experience right next to the urban Bay Area. And when I say that, it's because no matter what direction I look in, I see an amazing overlay of stories that lead to a magical experience that's different each time. And you can see that long straight tunnel takes you from San Francisco Bay and the city urban life, and on the other end, poof, you're in a whole natural wonderland.
The best example of a spring animal here in the Headlands is Velella, or what I think the common name is by the wind sailors. And they're these little jellyfish that float along the surface of the water, and they have a little sail on top. And the sail is adapted to northwesterly winds. So in the spring, the predominant winds are blowing down from the northwest. And that sail will keep the little jellyfish, Velella, out on the ocean as long as the winds keep coming from the northwest. But every once in a while there's this freak storm from the south, and the winds start blowing from the south, and then Velella is unlucky and unfortunately pushed into shore. So we get these big long streaks of blue all the way along the shore. That's a good sign of spring here in the Headlands.
So one of the birds that we have in the spring is the red-winged blackbird, and they have the most amazing red and somewhat yellow feathers on their shoulders. The males do. And the males will puff them up, and they'll walk around and they'll court the females. And I think they've actually studied red-winged blackbirds and said that the ones that have the biggest and brightest arm patches get most of the ladies. So the red-winged blackbirds are also extremely territorial, and they will protect their nests. And sometimes you might be out walking, totally minding your own business, and a red-winged blackbird will come by and dive bomb you and try to get you out of its territory.
You look at the hills and you see the dead grass, and you see the green of the coyote bush, and you see the different colors, and there's always just kind of some gray, the dead stuff, the things that die down during the winter, the things that die, and then suddenly you look, and just like today, the gray stuff is purple, and things start to take on a different look. It's just not the greens and grays of winter. It's suddenly the flowers are blooming everywhere, and it's the purple on the hillside of the lupin. And when the lupin starts to bloom, it's the most beautiful color in the world to me. And you just can barely see it on the edges of hillsides. It blends into almost, you don't notice it, but if you really look, you see the purple, and it becomes deeper and deeper day by day as more lupin starts to bloom. And that to me is the welcoming of spring, and what I look forward to every year to seeing.
There are two species of rabbits here in the Headlands. We have brush rabbits and we have jackrabbits. So these are two completely different types of rabbits, and there are no cottontails here. The brush rabbits are small rabbits that you'll often see as you maybe drive in along Bunker Road and see them zipping along the edge. Jackrabbits are a little more patchy in their distribution here, but you'll see maybe a couple of them. They're very big, very long legs, very large ears. Male deer have a seasonal pattern of antler growth, and when we find antlers in the field, they're hard and they feel like a piece of dead tissue, and they are at that point. But while they're growing, they're full of blood and living tissue. When the antlers go into the process of hardening, then the velvet is ready to rub off, and the deer might scratch it. It begins to itch it, and it scratches the head against the tree, and so that you're actually seeing the blood from the growing antlers. I don't know how fast the antlers grow here in the Headlands, but I think on most antlers, on mule deer, white-tailed deer, it's growing even maybe a centimeter or so a day, maybe half an inch during the growth season, which here maybe lasts from probably around sometime in January, midwinter through late spring. The antlers are growing at a really rapid rate. Even in a short time here, we learn that the wildlife is continually changing, or there's always something new to see. And the main focus that we've been trying to have is to radio color some of the coyotes so that we can really look at the individual movements and territories and home range of the coyotes and get a really good handle on their patterns of space use and activity. So we're tracking one of our male coyotes, and I've written down I take a compass bearing to where the coyote is, and then I write down our location, which I read off of a GPS unit here, which tells me my location, and then we'll take several of these and be able to triangulate then on the coyote's location. These blue dots that I've added to the map, I'll take away the red dots, which were scout locations, and the blue dots show locations where we've radio tracked this coyote. He's a young male, probably about 2 years old. We named him Clint Eastwood just because it's handy to have study animals with names rather than numbers, so his name is Clint. And we caught him down near the stables, and a lot of his locations for several months were in the vicinity of the rifle range and up sort of above Cape Hart, And then periodically he would make long treks north, or relatively long, and he'd go out somewhere between Muir Woods and Stinson Beach and be at various locations up there, sometimes literally almost right next to the Muir Woods Visitor Center. And then he'd shoot back down here, and that's almost a 5 or 6 mile trek, and he wouldn't really spend time in between. So what we're learning from him is, one, he's not a territorial animal. This is an animal who probably doesn't have a mate. He's perhaps dispersing or trying to find a place to set up a territory or look for a mate. And this year it looks like he's missed his window of opportunity for the breeding season, but next year it'll be interesting to compare and see if he's able to find an available spot.
So one of the birds that we have in the summertime that kind of marks the beginning of summer are the pelicans. And the pelicans fly in from down south. We think that they hang out down in Baja area during the winter. And then they migrate back up here and they spend their summer months out on Rodeo Lagoon. And they go out to the sea and they hunt, and you can see them diving down in the water. They look like pterodactyls all sort of flying in this line, and it feels like you've been zapped back to another age, the time of the dinosaurs, and just the power and the beauty of them flying along like that.
I think the pelicans are the goofiest darn bird around. You see them cruising around, they've got these huge wings, and they're coming in, you know, they look like this huge like B-52 coming in for like a water landing, and you're thinking, all right, a nice graceful touchdown here, and all of a sudden they duck their head and kaplow! They go head first in the water. You're just like, what kind of landing is that?
And they'll come back to the lagoon to rest and to preen themselves. When they splash in the water, they'll whack the water level with their wings, and that'll create this splash of kind of fresh, brackish water. Helps them clean off. Anyway, so they're really important around here because they really just signal the beginning of the summer for all of us.
One of the most common seabirds that